of NumismaTalks. I would like to introduce you to today's presenter, Walt Ostromecki. The e-learning program instructor has been a coin collecting merit badge counselor for over 20 years with the WLACC in California. He's a professional educator of 30 years and holds a PhD and he is a past president of the NANA. Walt is going to pass on his expertise for presenting a virtual workshop to help Scouts earn the BSA coin collecting merit badge. And Walt, I'll let you give more information on that.
All right, let's see here. Let's get my share screen back on. So we should have it now?
You do, perfect.
Okay, well, thank you for joining. This is something special that the ANA has wanted for a number of years. And of course, the pandemic sort of forced us into doing this. The Western Los Angeles Area County Council, where I serve on the executive committee, put together during the time of the pandemic, about a two-year time, a virtual merit badge university. And it included about 25 or 35 different merit badges that could be done. And I thought, well, why not use that also to try and get Scouts interested in the coin collecting hobby through a virtual merit badge program? A little bit before we begin here, for those that want to do this, this is a template. It's a suggestion that you might want to consider using or following if you'd like to do it. Now, for me, the main reason other than the pandemic was there were certain Scouts that could not come to meetings. Let's say they were the lone Scouts or they were Scouts with various physical disabilities that needed more time to do it. So this program could go through, and as I go through it, you'll see where I've used the Scouts material to help talk about that. But it allows a lone Scout, for example, or a Scout with various disabilities to do this over time. And as a counselor, I decided to just, keep information about them each trip. Now, these could be an hour sometimes just for one or two requirements. So anyway, let's begin. I know we've changed the name of our programs recently, the ANA has, but this is still under e-learning. But here's just a few tips for you, and I'll let you read this in detail at your own leisure if you want to set this up. Of course, we all know the first one there, it's better to do it in person because you can interact with the audience. And here it can be done as well. The Zoom idea, it talks about where it came from. It's about a 4-hour class if it's done in one session. Now, I've done these, and the ideal size would be 4 to 6, at the top, maybe 8 Scouts. I've had up to 10, and it's rough trying to keep them all on it. But one of the first requirements that you would need as an instructor to do this is maybe your council has a Zoom platform, as we do in Western LA, and I can run everything through there. If not, you'll have to set up a Zoom program. Now, it's free for 45 minutes, but the program here, as I said, takes roughly 4 hours to do the whole program. But you'll have to set up, and it's just a minimal cost. It's about $6, $7 a year to use the platforms there. But the idea, too, as I said here, is lone Scouts, rural Scouts, boys and girls together, different ages, they're able to learn it. Cub Scouts, I asked they can come. The parents can come and learn as well. Parents are welcome to share on the Zoom set as well. And they can learn about the exciting and fun hobby of coin collecting. To me, this was a win-win situation. So I'll move on here and we'll get you into a little bit more. Some other notes here for the counselors, which it mentioned as well. Now, I provide each Scout in advance. Now, they register usually 30 days before the program. That's the way our council here in Western Los Angeles has done it. So a Scout would register, and then I put together a number 2 there. If you look on the sheet, I put together a packet, and I'll show you part of the packet in just a bit, which goes through it. First thing is you need to remind Scouts with that packet is to provide the counselor at the program with the coins, which are required for requirement 6, 7, and I use 9D. It's easier with the Lincoln cents from their birth year. So all this stuff I mail out. You can email, materials, but it's hard to mail coins. But I send that stuff as well. But I also forward, as I said, the Scouts a care package, and I'll be showing some of these things like the U.S. Mint set here, the Mylar set, the planchet, which helps them see and hold while they're on the virtual program the requirement for number 1, dealing with the manufacturing process. Now, these can be obtained from the American Numismatic Association. Sam Gelbert is the YN coordinator, and his number is on the screen here. You can ask him about this, and he has some other things if you want to mail additional pencils and other items to the Scouts. Now, you're going to ask, first off, what about the blue card? How is that handled? Well, simply, it's handled by me on this end. In other words, as the counselor, I can fill out a card. I ask the scout to ask his scoutmaster that he's going to take the course online, as they've got 30 days to do so. If they don't, I keep track of all the requirements on the blue cards for them. So at 6 to 8, it's easy to see where each scout stands at that particular point. But I fill out the card, mail it to them. I get it from their parents, because there's usually a parent watching, or they're in the room with the scouts learning as well. So I take care of that and mail it when it's a partial. They've completed certain requirements, or they've completed the whole badge. And this way it can be done virtually. A little bit of work on the instructor's part, so you can have time to complete it. Now, there are some things I'll talk about when we get to the last requirement, which is 10C, 10A and B as well, how you would handle that. But if the scouts fail to do the first 10A and B, as we'll get to it in a little while, we can always use 10C, because there's a group of at least 6 there, and the scouts can share what they brought, or what they've collected, or what they know about the hobby. So that will help fulfill the requirement for 10 by using a 10C in that method. Okay, and for here in California, we've got special requirements, and this was set up for California. This is just a quick information we have here in California, an SB 506, which went into effect in January of this year. And it requires all counselors to be trained by the state of California, have a background check. There's all the information there on the left side of your page, and then they give you a volunteer request with a certificate, which is good in perpetuity. Right now, we don't know what's going to change in the years to come. But this is for all volunteer training for those that do programs virtually or in person. I tried to get around the virtual, and the state said absolutely not. I said, okay. So we went through the program. So it takes about 2.5 hours for the merit badge counselor to go through the program with the state of California. And you can do it in blocks of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So there's no hurry on to it, and they'll just send you the certificate afterwards as a screen. As most of you know, it's required to have youth protection training by BSA. Now, one of the gifts that I like to send out to the scouts, and it's good even in person if you do a merit badge, is what Whitman has, a coin collecting merit badge book. And it's a folder to hold all the items. I'm going to try to put this up here, up on the screen a little bit more. It may not show as well, but it's a large book which will hold the coins for requirements 6, 7, and 9D. It allows them to put their coins in a holder, has a place to keep it, and to spark interest in others, they can share it with the coins that they've collected. So this is a very important, and these they come in groups of 60, and they run about $2 a piece at minimal cost. But many coin organizations or clubs will sponsor that. I have several sponsors here in California, so we don't worry about it. But it's just a place to house their coins. And that's also a good keepsake. And again, here's a little bit more rather than my screen. You can see there's the state quarters. They've also added, which is not required, the westward nickels, and then the current coins in circulation. Now here, I'll make one note about the current coins in circulation. I've talked with National, and they agreed while we're working on a brand new program for the merit badge. We're trying to update it. It's in the final stages. We got some drafts made, so that's going to happen down the road. But the $50 technically does not circulate. So I have allowed, and National says, well, okay, if they don't have that, but I provide them to the kids. If they don't, I'll send them one afterwards, so they have that holder. But then the last here is the requirement for 910, the next one. And on the back of the book here is all the requirements for the scouts. So again, they have this in hand when they begin their virtual program. Here's a sample of a couple of the work pages that I developed. Again, at the end, you'll have a place where you can contact me. I can help you with more. I can supply you an idea, a template for this, but this is basically what I use. And when I check them in at the virtual program, the sheet on the left talks about, well, the scout's name, he'll fill that out, and they'll take notes during the program. And it's just giving them something to do while they're learning. So when I make sure that the first things that I check are the prerequisite coins they are to bring, 6, 7, and 9D. And if they have a blue card, well, in this case, they won't need a blue card because I will supply that. So I don't ask them to spend the money. So the important thing here is the next line, to have fun, to enjoy, and to learn about the fascinating hobby of coin collecting. I frown on many of the counselors I've seen that just do slideshows or show their own work. I don't think that's going to me, that's not interesting enough. And I have a goal, as it says here, and I have some icebreakers. This is the second part. Now, the way the requirements are listed in the book or the manual, I don't follow that order because it doesn't flow properly in my estimation. So page 2 of the worksheet here on your right, I start off with the common terminology. You've got to learn something about the terms before you can begin to understand the process, the coins, the grading, and so forth, as we'll get into. So, and they have just the answers to which are going. I put optional ones in there depending on time. But this is also taken from my regular program, which we just did in about a month and a half ago. We had 63 scouts out for an afternoon at a coin show here in Arcadia, California, to pass the badge. Now we got a couple of things here. Now on the left, the ANA can provide the Girl Scouts itself. Now girls and boys, as you know, it's called Scouts BSA today, but they have a Fun with Money patch, and some of the girls like to have that as well. So because that would be their commemorative that are just still Girl Scouts rather than being part of the Scouts BSA. On the right, I give each individual, I mail them a special coin collecting merit badge. Now it's not official. And as you know, they cannot wear this on their uniform. But I thought it was kind of a cool, neat idea. And parents have said things, and other scout councils nationwide have said, like the idea. So perhaps they're taking it into consideration as well. I don't know what to do with my Mylar. Well, I'll find out where she is. I lost the Mylar here. I think I must have. All right, we get to it. I'm just going to give a little bit of introduction here to the program as well. It dates back to 2001. With National Jamboree News. Now, this is when our National Jamboree was in West Virginia. But one of the headlines on their front page of the paper was actually we held a Boy Scout coin collecting clinic or merit badge or workshop there. And it was kind of fun, do it out in the woods and do things differently. And I will call your attention to the young man at the top, Jeff Swindling, who was a member of the ANA Education Committee, a scout and an individual that I've worked with when I was president. He was on my board for the ANA, but he's a great guy to learn. And again, scouts collect coins. So it makes it worthy. God. And this is part of the National Jamboree scene here. The patch that we had for Western LA Council here is on the left. Those are regular pocket patches. I love that shark for things. And event, well, I was part of the search and rescue team. I'm here in the brown suit on the left, no big deal, but we had fun. You see, we're camping out there. Very cozy quarters for us. Okay. And again, going back to just a little bit there, and this is the National Jamboree patch we had there in 2001. Cub Scouts are interested. This is one of the things I just took to show an example, but you can have Cub Scouts listening in. And when the Cub Scouts take the badge, when they bridge, I will send them a completed blue card dated after they've bridged to regular scouting. So that way it makes it easier too. And the parents have thought that was a great idea too, because then they come back to learn at other programs in person. Again, here's typical workshops. Different workshops as well. Girls involved. This is just strictly a Girl Scout one on the right. All right, Scouts BSA Virtual Merit Badge. Here we go. We're going to look at the PowerPoint of the 10 requirements. And I'm not going to spend time here on these type of credits, but this is just an overview, as I mentioned earlier, and can be used by a facilitator as an idea. And maybe it might help you too in doing when you're doing in-person programs as well. But it's in conjunction with the handout sheet, as we mentioned earlier. So I just open with a little bit of welcome, about 5 or 10 minutes history about coin collecting itself. Where were the first gold coins come? We're talking about the Lydians back in about 700 BC. So it's been a long time. But the beauty is, as James Earl Jones did when ANA for the ANA, show me the money. Money can talk. It shares, whether it's in coins, whether it's in paper money, and so forth. So there's a little reflection here that I give. The first step to remember that coin collecting is a hobby first, and the secret of long-time adventure and enjoyment with it as well. Now, in the long run, yes, it can be an investment, I'm sure. But rarity, we'll take a look at a little bit, is the value. And this is something that Scouts learn some basics in these programs, whether they're virtually or online. And question I ask, well, how can 1 nickel be worth a 1 nickel or 5-cent piece be worth $7.5 million? You see, so you whet their appetite and they're curious. And then I proceed to show them a copy. I wish I had one in my collection, but there are only 5 in existence. The 1913 Liberty nickel. If any of you watched the old TV show Hawaii Five-0, it was featured in that with Victor Bono as the villain. There's a whole story about it. But the first thing we're going to learn about is I asked the Scouts, well, what is this word called numismatics? And we'll be using it. So I break it up. And I guess it can be like a drug. You can get addicted to the hobby. I've enjoyed this for just a little over 51 years, and I'm only 39, but that's okay. We'll work on the difference later. But we talk about various things: money, checks, credit cards, trade, barter, coins. So, we talk about why. Why do you think, I asked the Scouts, well, why do you think coins were created? I mean, you could trade gold, you could trade paper, you could trade feathers, as many countries did. Whoops. Gonna go one slide here. Well, the answer was, is here as well on the screen, and I'm not going to focus on that. I'll let you as the watcher to decide if you want to take some of these ideas down, but gives you some thoughts. The origin of coins, there it is here. Origin of coins in the United States. Our first official coinage was a 1792 half dismy. It was a half dime. And roughly 1,500 or up to maybe 3,000 of those original ones were ordered by soon-to-be President Thomas Jefferson. He used to give these half deems out to his people when they came off, or his livery, as payment. So it's interesting to see how they started that. So where to start a coin collection? We'll go with the word here, and there's a little bit more for you. I'm sure you, as individual counselors, have ideas about that. But the Scouts BSA is a good one. If you want to learn more about money, you want to visit our museum virtually online, we have the website here of this thing, say money.org, but it's the ANA Museum. You can click on virtual tour and you can enjoy all sorts of ideas, see them firsthand, right up close. And a secondary source would also be the U.S. Mint, where they have a whole area focus, usmint.gov/education, and you can put teachers programs on that, and they can go with it. If they're younger kids, you can click down one more. They can interact with the Mint characters, such as Pinky the Pig, Sam the Eagle. They can design a coin. It's a very safe site for the younger ones. Usually the Cub Scouts love to do that. So becoming a coin hobbyist requires you, this will cover requirement number 2. So again, these are not in order as in the book, but I do them because it flows easier. So becoming a coin hobbyist requires you to learn some lingo. Just like today online, you've got BFFs and so forth. It's the same type of thing that we ask the Scouts. And this is what they would fill out on their sheet, the requirement 2, to define these 6. And I talk about a couple of extra, as you will see in just a bit. So we look about how many edges the coin have, for example. How do you know a current U.S. coin? Why do they have reeded edges? They don't have silver or gold. So there's all sorts of stories you can interact and bring into the program. Well, here's some of the answers, of course, would be for you as a counselor to look at, and I'm sure you probably would have it in your own way, but can be done. And the answer is, well, the cent doesn't have reeded edges, the nickel doesn't, and most of the presidential dollars, Sacagawea dollars, do not have reeded edges, and you can look at that on your own. So there's something here that we can show when they get this in their packet, the virtual packet, the parts of a coin. I think this is ANA's publication, so it gives them all sorts of ideas, nicely colorized and designed. Of course, the Colorado there. Oh, look at the Rocky Mountains. No snow. Well, let's move on here. Next, I follow up with requirement number 3 in the virtual program, the minting process. How and where are coins made? Well, this is what they're asked. And there are 6 steps. And I guess I left out a slide. I might have forgot to add it in. But the ANA also has a product that the Mint sends out, which I give to the kids in a Mylar packet. It has a blank planchet with an upraised edge, and it has a finished product in it as well. So in that, they can actually see and hold. Again, I send this out in advance to the scouts in their packet for the merit badge, so they can see. I also have casting rolling strips, which I show in my program, which is more detailed than here, so the kids can get that, and I will send them a clip or a part of webbing from either a quarter or a dime, which is donated by Arnold Coins here in California. He loves to get involved with the kids. So they learn about that, a daily process. Okay, and here's a quick thing. This is also in their packet. This is again from what we showed earlier with the 2001 Scout Jamboree. This is a great thing showing the process, and I've added the numbers to it. There's actually 8 according to the Mint, but Scouting Merit Badge, which will probably be changed, which will reflect those 8 in the coming ones, but they can actually see it and they can read about it and learn. Okay, the 8 steps to the minting process. Well, as we covered in the page, I won't cover them here, but this is to do it. And one interesting note, we talk about a annealing process, which is the third part here. I'm going to go back to tumbling, heating. It says washing, tumbling, heating, and blanks. And I put this up. The kid says, "Whoa, Pickles, what are you doing with that?" Well, the Mint actually calls the liquid that they make up, it's actually an oily liquid for the annealing process for the blanks. And it's called pickle juice. Don't know why, but it's kind of interesting. So pickles are involved in our coins. Maybe that's why they have a taste to the youngsters that like to put them in their mouth. Anyway, okay, requirement part. This is part 2 of it here. It requires them to identify the 4 active U.S. mints. And West Point is not a mint, although the mint in the Treasury Department listed as a mint is just a depository for gold bulletin. It has no coinage production whatsoever. And so we'll talk about the Philadelphia, then we'll talk about the Denver Mint, we'll talk about San Francisco and a little bit of history there. And the one that they always find interesting, never can remember the 4th one, W. I say that's for me, Walter, I got my own mint. Anyway, this is just a branch assay office in New York, but it does have things. And I also let them know, well, there are also four mints that we used to have at one time. And of course, we had a C, which was for Charlotte, which issued gold coins only from 1838 to 61. And another D was C before Denver, the Loniga, Georgia. But again, they issued only gold coins. And one of the famous ones there, the CC from the silver Comstock load in Carson City. The mint is still, the mint press is still there today at the Nevada Museum. You can go there and you can strike a medal from the original #1 press that operated from the period there. And lastly, the O, see, both of them fit in with my name, New Orleans, Louisiana, which has an interesting history. It actually operated under 3 different, I'll call them flags. First, the United States government, then the Louisiana flag, and then the Confederate flag. So it all struck coins during that time, during the Civil War period. And here an example I'll show here for the virtual ones because the scouts can't see it. But these are the mints. On the left, we have Philadelphia, the mother mint. Then we have the Denver mint. And then we have the one up on the hill. There's also across this one on the left for San Francisco. There's beautiful galvanos across it just below the flags. You have to be close up to see it. They did a marvelous job of it. And this is the United States Mint at West Point, New York. So to give you an idea, well, what's it look like inside? Well, I suggest if you do take a tour, you can take one of Denver and Philadelphia. You can arrange for that in advance, but you can only see it. But in the early days, we used to go down the floor. The noise was deafening to hear the presses. At Denver at the time in the late or mid 1970s, there were 77 presses on the floor, and you had to wear earmuffs and paper over that. It was just noisy. But here's an idea of what the minting process, coining presses look like from Denver, especially because we've used these, and to see notice how they're sorted out. This one on the right is just a cool thing. It does 3 or 4 different things. It does a lot of the inspecting too, but it does, let's say AI can make mistakes. Anyway, these are the current denominations in circulation. Don't like the government using penny. It should be a cent. So that's one of my pet peeves. I make sure the scouts note that. But the dollars, we have several choices of those to be used, as there are several, including the innovation dollars, which don't really circulate, but I've seen one every now and then in circulation. So let's move on here. Current coin denominations. Well, this is an example here for requirement number 7. Okay. Current U.S. denominations, the 1 cent struck for circulation and so forth. And I've identified things which the old scouts need to do, which isn't so much fun in person. And I think it's going to be written out of the new program, but it deals especially with the engraver's initials. But you can see here the kids get a chance to see it. And remember, they'll have an example in their hand, the designer and so forth on the left of the cent. And note where the P mint mark is, and the green arrows all show where the designers were. Sometimes there's 2 different designers here, as with the Westward Nickel series beginning in 2006 present. Roosevelt dimes, well, they get a chance to see here. This is where I have an opportunity here on the left to show them a W mint mark. And then again, here we have a clad. So it covers the idea of where they are. State quarters. Again, notice the Kennedy's neck here. They've got the designer's initials. And again, the Sacagawean presidential dollars, which are probably the easiest to find in circulation from banks, where the designer's initials are. And especially here, this is hard to see, but the green arrow on the Sacagawea on the left. And of course, even here with Zachary Taylor, especially, that's not stars on his collar. That's the designer's initials. Little things you can observe. I guess to me, it's having fun with coins. And then, of course, part of number 7 is the state quarter series. And that lasted from 1999 through 2008. And so after that, we had the 2009 U.S. territory and Washington, D.C. quarters. And then coming up to more current, and these things will be changing in the new series of the coin collecting merit badge, America the Beautiful quarters, which went up through 2021. 2021, they changed. And if you notice here, the kids will say, whoa, Washington looks different. Well, in 2021, they went back to the regular design with Washington crossing a Delaware. This was supposed to be the design for the quarter in perpetuity. However, of course, a program came about in 2020 and 25 with the women program, and the Women's Day Quarter program, and it's going even on today. I just got my Maria Talltree in the mail from the Mint, so she's the last one for this year, and there's 2 more years to go on that program. Again, we're talking about the versus of silver and gold here. Again, you're getting, you know more about this, I'm sure, that we do. And we talk about here. Now, it's interesting. People say, well, why is it you want to get a complete collection of coins? Collect the Susan B. Anthony dollars. It's only 4 in the series. You want to go by dates. And there's only actually 3 for circulation. Well, not so. You look here on the left, you'll see there's a 1999, and Well, why was that issued? Well, the mint laws had not been changed. Congress had not acted to make the Sacagawea dollar official yet. And so legislation said that it had to mint the 1999 issue. And again, we can talk about the Sacagawea dollar here. Here's part of the innovation series, part of the ones for the reverse on the Sacagawea. Now, this is where we get a chance to see the third side of the coins, and the kids, to get a chance to see it, because it has the mint marks on it, has a date, and has e pluribus unum. So a coin has how many sides? 3. And then again, these are golden colored, the presidential ones. One of my favorites, George W. Bush. And here's what I mentioned earlier about an innovation dollar. So these are all coins they could have or add. They could buy a set from the mint, maybe from a local coin dealer, or have a relative give them one. So this is also the innovation dollar, which is going to be going on for another couple of years. But the 50-state quarter program is what is required for requirement 7. Now, I have a unique opportunity here in California, as we're about to see once I talk about some of these coins here. But this particular coin, which is the California State Quarter. Now, here in California, I just happened to be good friends and was there with the first strike ceremony and release with Governor Schwarzenegger in 2005. But one of the highlights, I think one of the special features, even virtually, and I will put it in and as an addition for the Scouts, is to have the concept designer of the quarter. Okay, and it was Garrett Burke. And here you see his original concept design. Now, he calls it a concept because he lets the mint actually make the design, but he is the concept behind the design for the quarter that was added along with Governor Schwarzenegger, who added over the top of it. And here we can see Garrett Burke. He comes down to the programs in person. And I have a little clip that I put in on the virtual programs, but he addresses one from 2013 when he was addressing the Scouts. His wife is off to the left. But each Scout, Garrett gives each Scout there present, and he gives me enough to mail out a special gift for those that come to the California workshop. This is photo holding one of the coins and signed by Garrett. So it's a nice little souvenir. Okay, we've completed number 7. Let's move on here to something handling your coin storage. How is that handled virtually? That's easy. As you can see by the large display of material here on the side, we can have all sorts of holders or places. And the Scouts, we talk about the strengths and weaknesses of each particular program. But number 1 here, you should never do what to a coin, as probably most of you know. Clean it. I don't care if it has dirt on it, leave it, because it can affect the value of any coin if you go to sell it down the line. And never use your fingers to touch a brand new uncirculated coin. And they need to explain from requirement 3 the concept of an encapsulated coin. Well, we'll see one here. You see one in the silver dollar and the cent off on the side here. Well, do you think this is a proper way? I had a friend of mine do this. But we ask here, Scouts, well, what's the proper way? How's a Lincoln cent collection? Do you think this is good? Put the word pennies down there and date it? Well, it just sort of gets them thinking too. It's not the proper way, but here's some of the storages. You've got albums and so forth. I'm not going to go much here. 2x2 holder. Here's a Scout putting them into the things from a show. The various coins. Here's a slab we'll talk about, or an encapsulated or encased. And it's the same as for the requirement here as well. Whoops. And then we move on to requirement 8. Again, these are easy. Most of the kids have seen pictures, and I have them here. I don't supply them with $100 bills. I'm sorry. I wish I could, but I cannot. But just the basic thing is here to define. And one of the questions they're asked at the end of when they talk about it is, what does the term legal tender means? And I won't go into that as well because you probably know it. And what is the Federal Reserve System? What does it do? Well, distributes what currency? No, it distributes both currency and coins. So that's part of the Federal Reserve System. Anyway, they get a chance to see some of the higher denominations. These two in my collection, $500 note. They get a chance to see $1,000 note. Oh, they can't believe it. We even get better. I get a chance to show them. And in person, I have the example. I don't have examples of these two in my collection, but there's a $5,000 one, $10,000 one. This is actually a sample. The 10,000 is a star. So it is not an official issue. And then, of course, they say, well, here's the biggest one. Anybody got one in their pocket? They get a chance to see from the series of 1934 with President Wilson. So again, so what's the condition? Now, this is the program. This deals with grading. And this program virtually, if you have, let's say 7 scouts, a maximum that I would have, it takes about 20 minutes to do this particular part. Now, virtually, we can only do what we call teach the theory. There's not a hands-on. But what I supply the kids is this particular one I use, Washington quarters, because they're large enough to see the detail on it. And this, again, comes from the Jamboree issue. I like when we put it in there. But it shows the various grades of the coin. Now, here it says the G's. We go over the G scale. But again, this will take time because each scout, we try to, because they can interact together on a Zoom program, or even Skype is better where I can be there and working with them. But it's up to the counselor to do it that way. So they get a chance to, and then we look at coin resources. Okay, well, how do we handle this? Well, there are several ways to do it, but I have a thought here, which I will share with you. But the Red Book, one of the best books for on U.S. coins, which has a great amount of information and history. The prices change every year. But Dick Yeoman was the gentleman that first started this in 1946 dated, but actually appeared in 1947. And I'll take one of the Krause catalogs on world coins. These are about the size of an old Gutenberg Bible. They carry around 2 or 3 of these. But we also use books, newspapers, magazines. For example, for part A, reference to U.S. coins. Now, in their packet that I had sent them, I asked them to pick out a date, tell me the price, in various grades that we've gone over quickly. And where's the highest value ones? What are they uncirculated? Because they've already looked at the terms that they must have. So for the requirement 5B for a world coin, for a second one, I simply send them a page. And this is a fun coin because I can actually show it live. But it deals with Tonga. And I ask them, well, share the information you found in your page about Tonga. And I ask for the mintage, the metal, the price value, etc., about the coin. So this helps fulfill that one. Or here's actually the coins. And I got our compared U.S. Cent at the bottom to this one. But this monster coin here is just one that they love to see and handle. You can do the same thing with world paper money. I send them a couple of sheets, and we'll go over in the class virtually about that. And they will probably have a copy of, let's say, this one here is from Biafra, which is easy because it only had a few issues. And then we can go on to a very famous magazine from the American Numismatic Association, an award-winning numismatist, and it has all sorts of articles and so forth about women here, the Tuskegee women, from that. And we also can talk about numismatic news because it highlighted, especially recently, for the later series, the Tuskegee Airmen. And so they have a copy of one of these magazines. And we talked about this earlier here, this one at this particular time. This was Carl Malone, who I believe was with the Utah Jazz basketball team. He bought this particular coin for $1.84 million. Well, that was clear back in 2001. As I mentioned at the beginning, now the last one sold for $7.5 million. But here's an article about the coin being in television show with Victor Bono on Hawaii Five-0. So requirement 3, this is where your grading comes in again. We're leading up to it. Now we need to define it so that scouts can see it. So condition, I try to make it as simple as possible, is based on the wear of a coin, how detailed it is still on a coin. As it says here, this is a theory and can be introduced virtually without actual hands-on. So they need to describe they need to describe 6 And I suggest that the scouts have and get afterwards. I can send them a 10 power loop to examine it. And there's something that's called a checklist here, the official by Whitman Publishing. Again, these are things not necessary. But what the kids must identify is an uncirculated coin, and like an extra fine, a fine, very good, a good, and a poor. They only have to, it says, according to the requirement, to define. Well, defining it is fine, but they need to really see it so they can understand the definition and see the difference between the grading on the coin. And some things are minute. So for me, I found this the best way to do it here is something. Now, what I try to do, and I'm going to go a little bit slower here, but I'll let you look at it at your leisure as well, is to pick an uncirculated cent. And you can see I highlighted here virtually the high points on a coin that we would see the first wear, especially obverse and reverse. And I used Beth Deischer's program here on the left, which shows no trace and stuff. So she did a great job. Even though there's pits in the field here, this is still an uncirculated coin. And we would probably grade on the lower end of the MS scale, as they find out, MS 60. And here's a beautiful 55. And then again, here's an example of a extra fine. And I have a lot of 1922s in my collection. So I put a lot of them here so they can see the same coin in different stages of wear. So again, the high points you need to go, and I'm not going to spend too much time. You can decide here. Here again is a 22, very fine 35. And they're hopefully picking up time. And we'll take one. Here's a nice one for it's a fine 12. Whoops. Here's a VG. That shows a little better. I enhanced. Now these are blown up and enhanced on the left one from my collections. And then a good one. Oh boy. Well, it's good. Still makes it. Usually the rim is a lot thinner. Beth Deischer's here on the left did a lot better. And then a pour, of course. Well, pour is easy. So for the scouts, basically, they get an uncirculated coin defined and a pour coin defined. They can get those out of the way. All they really need to do is look at the details, and we'll go through those slowly here in just a bit. This is a pour MS. This is probably an MS2. A little more detail. Shouldn't have much date, but one of the better ones. Again, this is a 1922. Oops. So here's a virtual grading theory match quiz that I put together. On each one that the scouts see here, and I wish they could have it in person because in a classroom you can do that. There's a definition of the grades on each side, which we've covered a little bit before about it. Like I say, we sort of whizzed through it here, but to do it naturally here on the virtual one, I need to have this by each one. So here we have a virtual theory definition of grading. Now I'm showing this coin because they're going to say, oh, it's terrible. Well, the coin is actually uncirculated. It's just been mistreated, abused, you want to say maybe even whizzed, I don't know for sure, but it was just a beautiful example. But technically, the coin would grade by the definition of no wear. There's no wear. These are all surface blemishes caused by man or someone. Anyway, we'll go over that as well. But here's the match grade. Okay. We have a grade here of a Lincoln cent. Okay. And again, we're going to ask them to take a look at it. Now, they've already had the terms. They have their handout sheet there, which shows the wares. I'm using Lincoln cents here for your program, but I use quarters elsewhere. But this is one of the matches, okay? We're asking them to look at the arrows and items and see, and they're going to, and again, here's one for the description here. Match number 3, they're looking at, and again, you can see all the background scratches, but that really doesn't affect the grade. Now, some of these are in the die itself, and some of them are a little bit of cracks, perhaps, in the original die. But here's match number 4, which they get a chance to, and we'll go over these just a little bit so you know where we're going as to what these actually are. And then again, we move on. Here's the 15. I did both sides. I wish I had done it in all of them. And then again, a match here for description, 1909 SVDB. Genuine, not counterfeit. And here's a match description for the 13S. This one here, and now you'll notice how bright and shiny it is. Oh, this coin has been cleaned. So let's say, oh, it looks shiny, so it must be uncirculated. No. You got to look at the detail for the wear to be able to match the grade to the description. Just because it looks shiny, I did a good job this with Brillo pad just for the heck of it. Anyway, there's a match grade description here again for 13D, and you'll notice other scars along his ears and so forth here. So they're looking at that. So match number 9, and this is pretty obvious as to the grade. That makes it easier for him to get it. Here's another one, nicely cleaned by you know who here. Look at the stuff left inside. This is shellac, I guess, or varnish that I tried to make it look so they can understand what a clean coin looks like too. And so this is match grade. You can get an idea here. This is one that we used earlier. It's probably going to be your poor grade. So what we go through each one, and then I ask them, okay, you've got a sheet in front of you. Fill out what grade you think it is. Now, I know they're going to get 2 right automatically. So if they get 4 or even 3 sometimes correctly match with the actual coin and the description or definition that they have, then I say, okay, you can pass it on. So those are the answers to it. And then, of course, the final part of that requirement is what's the word proof? You need to tell your counselor why it's not a grade. And I won't go into that. You know, it's a process. And we just tell the kids it's different. They're done individually and so forth. And we're coming down to the end of the program here. Looks like I'm making good time to try to put this together for you all to see. But requirement number 10. Now it offers 4 choices. The Scouts can do any one of the 4. Or if they didn't select one to do in advance, then I say, well, you have brought a coin along, and we'll have you 2 minutes to do it in a program here in front of the rest of the 6 or 7 Scouts that are here virtually with us today. And therefore, they don't feel threatened. They're not scared in the class because they got their own age. They got Scouts with them for support. And I send each one of them a prize afterwards. We're doing it, but it has 4 choices. And you can see the 4 choices here. Now, I've not had anyone virtually do the last one, D, draw and circulate British colony coins. Don't know why. Maybe they're hard to come by. It's an easy foreign coin to get, but so far virtually I've never had it. And in the programs that I've done, I think only 1 or 2 Scouts have sketched them. I've kept those in a book. I don't think I put any in here. So let's take a look at these. The requirement, as I said, has 4 choices. Now these can be done virtually. Why? Because you can take tours of the U.S. mints. You can take tours of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. You can take tours of the Federal Reserve banks. And of course, you can take a tour of the largest museum, as one of the requirements says, of the ANA Museum at money.org. And I've listed the information here for you as a counselor if you'd like to look at it if you're not familiar. But the kids can do it virtually. This A and B should be done in advance because they have to prepare a report written after they do that. And we're going to come up to the next things here about that. There we go. But here's a Scout. Here's an A and B program. All right, a Scout written report. On the left, this is one that was done virtually. And they took a tour of the U.S. Mint. I think it was Denver, if I'm not mistaken. I got to remember back. But anyway, this is the report that he put together. Send it to me. And I have it for that, how coins are made and so forth. He thought it was quite interesting in visiting a Mint website, what he learned. Another Scout here, this was done after the pandemic by a Scout here. Noah was a lone Scout and he had a few disabilities, but he went to visit a dealer, a coin shop, one in, I'll say out in West Covina area that I know quite well. But here he's interacting with the dealer, showing and learning. So this is an opportunity to do with the B part of the program as well. Well, with that in mind, it looks like for you guys that are watching here, to learn about virtually, it can be done. It takes time and patience. And one of the things that I would stress that you try to make it as interesting and fun as possible, because it's a great seed to plant for the future of the hobby and these youngsters. And I still have hundreds of these particular coins, but Those that completed, along with the patch that I send out congratulations to all, and knowledge is worth 1,000,000. So I sent them 1,000,000 lira. This is a nice coin from Turkey many years ago because their inflation was so bad. So they become billionaires as well. Some of the other things that I have now, Paula, for your information, I did this in black and white in case any instructor wants to copy it off of this. I got a color ones, which I do send out. So, but this is just a black and white copy of a program that the ANA has. If the kids or even the adults or parents want to learn a little bit more about the ANA and its programs, we have here a Coins for A's flyer, which allows the kids to get involved a little bit more and learn about it, and they can earn coins, whether they're homeschooled, they'll just put that down if it's pass fail, or if they have A's or B's, but they need 3 A's on a report card. And the young lady here, Ms. Kepner, is the one in charge of the program as well. Her information is there on the sheet. And I think this is a good way to keep the kids interested afterwards and tells a little bit more about it. And also on the flyer, there are a number of other programs for kids that would want to learn more, especially Scouts as well. So I thought that's quite interesting. And so if there's any further questions from you, I got a couple of things more that I'm going to put down here at the end. But I'm here to help. If you would like to assist, or I can help you work with, if you want to develop your own program, I'm more than willing to do it. I'm fine. Here's my information and registered, as it mentioned. And one of the things that I have just for the Scouts at the end, many Scouts, boys and girls, do not realize the U.S. Mint had issued a commemorative coin or coins, Boy Scouts in 2010 and Girl Scouts in 2013. And so I take the opportunity here to show the event in 2010 when we were in Dallas. Here's the program. And here's this was the chief executive at the time and the young Scout of the year in the middle, with yours truly on the end. And what was interesting there is those that came to the ceremony, a lot of Scouts collect patches, as you know, and the Mint actually made only 100 passes for presentation to the folks there. I thought it was a beautiful patch. I was had a little more color to it. The purple doesn't show up well here, perhaps on the screen, but this is something you can collect and go back to mine. But the Scouts need to realize that they have a coin, and I love this particular coin here. You notice on the left, this is a proof and an uncirculated coin. So they're struck differently, but look at the detail on it as well. But I like the way all three, you got the girls in the middle here, the Cubs and the boys. It was a great design. And it runs about $50, $60 today. But when they were released at the ceremony, there were 350,000 available. They sold out, believe it or not, at the show in 15 minutes. 350,000 of these coins. There's a lot of Scout collectors. The Girl Scouts had their own. Now, what's interesting, the Boy Scouts happened to have used, I didn't put it here, but it was Philadelphia Mint. But the Girl Scouts, look at here, the W Mint mark. They got theirs struck at West Point. I like the design too. It shows 3 different girls. Look at the cheery girls there. They must really love it. That was their 100th anniversary. Here's some of the girls at one of the programs doing. So Scouts, we do have coins, and it'd be nice to show them at the end. And Paula, I will turn it back to you if you don't mind. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you so much for doing that. I know that's going to help a lot of people.
I hope so.
Yeah, so I appreciate you jumping on to do this extra NumismaTalk special edition. And if for those of you that are out there watching, you can always check our website to find out when other NumismaTalks and what those will be. They are on the 2nd and 4th Thursday of every month at noon Mountain. So, and Walt has done several of those as well for me. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much.